What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show. Me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And we are back with another top 5 bets for the week in the world of mixed martial arts. And there isn't that much mixed martial arts this weekend, let's be honest. We have basically, I know there's an EFC show and there's a Brave show, but there isn't too much standing out for me on them. And I know there's an Invicta show as well, which might be coming up a little bit early for the betting show coming out, but there's some good stuff on that as well. But it's mostly the UFC this weekend. And I'll be honest, like, this UFC, again, let's be honest, didn't start out as a great card. And there's been a lot of injuries, a lot of pullouts, whatever happened. And it's gotten progressively worse and worse. So much so it's like, we often say, is this the worst UFC card of all time? You could definitely argue that this is the worst UFC card of all time. Like, there's people that cover the sport, myself included, people like on the top 3 fights you've never heard of type of thing. I'm like, oh my God, how did this happen? I know, like, okay, late replacements and all, but not amazing. But we have pulled 5 bets out for you, and we will give them to you today. Before we get to that, though, we had a good weekend. As you know, if you watched the PFL preview, I was away for the weekend at my good friend and colleague Ian O'Neill's wedding. Congratulations again to Ian. So it was kind of late into the night or in the early morning when I actually saw the results, and I'm like, well, do you know what, we did pretty well. So we hit 3 out of the 4, and again, obviously the Flier didn't hit. Jhonata Bishop actually did okay. You know, watching it back, I thought it was a destruction at the time, but when I actually went in and watched it back, it wasn't as much of a destruction. You know, the Dishevak caught her with a big knee, but other than that, she did okay. You know, she was winning the fight up until that point, and you could see why you'd betting her at plus 410, but it wasn't to be. Obviously, she got sent to the shadow realm a little bit by Dakota Ditcheva, who moves on. But the other 4 were good. I think, look, we spoke about it last week and betting on the price of Corey Sandhagen at plus 265. I know a lot of people in the comment section were like, oh, you know, betting on Corey, you're just losing your money. And look, if you did bet on Corey, you did lose your money. But I think a lot of people would agree that it was like a close enough fight, even though Umar came out with a big judge's lopsided decision, but it was still a close fight. And the price probably was a little bit off, but still it was a losing bet. But the other 3 were winning bets. Minus 135 for Davidson Figueiredo, who obviously outpointed Cheeto. We had Chiesa inside the distance at plus 100. Obviously, we were looking at the submission as well, which I think I can't remember the exact price on that. We'll have to go back and look at that. And then Sergey Bilistini, who got the submission as well, at minus 162. So, you know, not bad prices in all 3 of them, and 3 winners there after 3 winners again last week at similar enough prices. So a very, very good run over the last 2 weeks. We've had 6 out of the 8 normal bets hit, so not so bad at all. It's brought us well over the 50% mark now for the year. 61 out of 119, and still only 2 flyers. But we won't talk about that. But let's get to this week. I'm going a little bit different this week. I'm going with all plus money bets. I actually have 2 bets from the main event, because I had one of the fights that fell out and then I had another fight that fell out. So I'm like, well, how many more fights are going to fall out here before I have bad bets? So I'm sticking to the main event. Those are my last 2 bets, but we're going to start before that. And the first bet I'm going for here is Chelsea Chandler, straight up at plus 125. Now, again, I'm looking at plus money. I decided to give all plus money bets here because there are a few close fights like this on the card, and I've decided just for this one, and I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't pick anyone I don't think who will win, but I've gone with the ones who I think could go a couple of different ways. Yes, it could. I'm going to go with this person, right? So this one, I watched the tape. I actually watched the tape before I looked at the Sherdog lineup, and I watched the tape before I looked at the betting prices and decided who I was going to pick, right? So for this one specifically, not the others, but this one specifically. And the reason I went with Chandler was it's funny because this is an old boxing thing maybe, but she's a southpaw, right? And she's a little bit awkward. And when you're when you're like that and you're fighting someone like Yana Santos, I actually think it makes a bigger difference than normal. And I'll tell you why. Because Yana Santos is the type of fighter who tries to be a little bit different herself, tries to, attack in different ways than a lot of people. Like, we've seen a few of her fights where there's a lot of like old school, maybe dirty boxing, attacks after the clinch rather than going into the clinch or before him, and maybe you could call that dirty boxing as well, but with takedowns and other things as well. And I think she tries to muddle fighters a little bit, right? But I think she might be the one getting a little bit muddled by Chelsea Chandler in the way she fights. Like, I kind of like her style. She's the type of fighter, right? You look at her and you go, right, she's 8 fights into her career. She's 30 years of age. Just, okay, is not the youngest in the world, but, she only made her debut in 2018, and, we all know what happened around the time of the pandemic. She's 2 years out of the cage, basically, after being, between Invicta fights, so tough time. So, not a lot of, not a lot of miles on the clock at all. But, so that kind of little bit of a differentiation for her, plus her very good straight lefts, but her transitions as well, I think, is the main part. Like, she doesn't have the best takedown defense in the world, which you'd probably say against someone like Yana Santos you probably are going to have to, because she's going to try to put you against the cage, take you down, or try to take you down in the middle. Although, I don't think that's necessarily happening here. But I think that, so the awkward, like, okay, she's awkward, she's going to win. Why is she going to win? Because of the awkwardness. Because I think it's going to be tougher for Santos to use her awkwardness, if you want to put it that way, on Chandler. And then when Chandler, what she's very, very good at, right? She stops the takedown, or she gets taken down, but she transitions, she gets back, and she gets back onto the feet. And this is a similar with another fight here in a second, right? She's very good at getting into her normality quicker than her opponent is, right? Now, you could say the same about Santos in the way she fights, which you mentioned earlier, but I think the winning of the transitions makes Chandler's ability to keep it on the feet, get it back to the feet, or keep it on the feet higher, and it makes her ability to use her awkwardness on Santos higher as well. For Santos, I think it's very rare that she is not as good of an athlete as her opponent. Like, not that Santos is the best athlete in the world or anything like that, but she's kind of big and strong. She's like, how would you put it? She maybe rugby athletics, you would put it that way. Strong in a more like, in an agricultural way, if you want to put it that way. She's not going to be going around wheel kicking people or, moving like, I don't know, Jessica Andrade or something like that, if you get me. But if Chandler can do that to her, make her the B athlete instead of the A athlete in a certain way, I think it's a big thing. And she's very strong as well, Chandler is. If she wins the transitions to allow her to get up from takedowns, and if she's stronger in the clinch and is a better athlete, which I think she might be, I find it very hard to see Chandler losing this fight. Because, again, I'll say it, those straight lefts down the middle, she's a better boxer. She lands better. She hits harder than Santos. And I think if it gets into that realm, I think it's going to be very, very hard for Santos to win that fight. Now, again, Chandler's at a stage in her career where she's won 6 fights and she's only had 2 knockouts, and she hasn't had one, she knocked out Julia Salarenko, I suppose, two wins ago, but I don't think she's going to knock her out here either. Now, I think this will probably be a decision, having said that, but I really, really favour her. I think Santos, again, they're both 5'8", and we've seen Chandler fight up at 145 pounds as well, as we know. This fight is at bantamweight, so down 135 pounds. Making weight as well might be the issue, but it's very rare that Santos will be the smaller athlete, the worst athlete, if you want to put it that way, against someone who's going to win transitions and be a better boxer than her. So haven't said all that. It sounds there like I'm very much staking my claim for Chelsea Chandler, and I think I am. So first bet of the week, Chelsea Chandler at plus 125. Second bet of the week, I'm going for, and I actually just see since I wrote my prices down a second ago, the prices changed about an hour ago. I'm going for Pannie Kianzad at plus 180 again in a relatively close fight here in the women's bantamweight division as well against Carl Hossa. And if people listen to this before, I've spoken about Carl Hossa a few times, and I respect her game and I respect what she is, as a fighter. Obviously, neither of these the top fighters in the world, but very evenly matched in terms of like both 5'7", both around the 30 mark. One's 29, one's 32. Not a whole pile of difference there. Similar enough in terms of 24 fights, plays 23 fights. 4 knockouts, plays 3 knockouts, 13 decisions, plays 11. Is it not a whole lot, not really a whole lot in it. But when you go and watch the tape, I think the big difference here is Kianzad's boxing. I think, you look at Hossa, and I went back and I watched, a couple of her fights, and I think what she's really good at is she pushes. I watched her against Jhonata Diniz kill 2 birds with one stone. She likes to push the pace. She likes to push you against the cage. She likes to hold you there. She likes to land her shots when she can. And that, look, I'll be honest, I know the reason why she's the favorite here. And she is, let me just have a quick look again. She is the up to minus 218, around minus 200 in most places favorite here. The reason for that is her ability to push the pace. And we've seen before that Pannie can be at risk when put under pressure. Like, pressure is the issue for her. But if you watch a couple of her recent fights, the Lena Landsberg fight, especially, like Lena, we know how good Lena is in the clinch. And I think that's probably, you could argue the best fight to watch in preparation for this one. Now, funny enough, she won that, so maybe that's a little bit unfair as well. But watch it. I watched back the first round, especially the Ketlin Vieira fight, and I think at times, and it's she got was it the Ketlin Vieira? I think it was the Ketlin Vieira fight where she got taken down. But I think her ability to fight out with her hands is really, really, really good, really good. And you see, look, the people she lost to, Vieira, Pennington, Chison, like we look how good Chison was. That was her most recent fight, in fact, wasn't it? Those are the only women she's lost to since 2019, beating Kahea, Eubanks, Alexis Davis, Lena Landsberg, has Kianzad, which might have gone a little bit under the radar. I know she's lost her last 2 in a row and 3 of her last 4, but still, she hasn't been doing bad over the last 4 or 5 years. And Hossa maybe is looked at in a different manner. And, she's the same. She's lost 3 of her last 5. Since 2021, losing to McMahon, Dumont, and Aldana. Again, 3 very, very good fighters. Beating Landsberg and Santos, so similar enough, I suppose. But I don't know. So the reason why I'm going with Kianzad is because I think if Rosa wins the fight, she'll win it by pushing her in the clinch, pushing the pace, tiring her out, pulling her down to the ground, maybe trying to go for the submission, but trying to get on top. And I think Kianzad is good enough to box her way out. Now, the problem here is, I think for Pannie Kianzad, look, this is likely to go to a decision, for being honest. She has to win the first 2 rounds, I think, because there's a new thing I like to say in my analysis these days, and it's a 3rd round takedown, because there's a big difference between a first round and a second round and a 3rd round takedown. They come much easier. They often are because of the fighter who is wanting not to get taken down, is a little bit more tired, and it's not that they left their it's not that their cardio fell massively, or it's not that their technique fell massively or anything like that. It's just a decision you make when you're that little bit more tired to maybe take one step in a different direction. and when someone goes for that takedown, they end up getting them, right? So I fully expect, or there's a big possibility that Jose comes out here and wins the third. I think Kianzad will be good enough to stay away from her, as I said in the first. It comes down to that second. If she can keep doing it throughout the second, or large periods of the second, I think she is enough to win this fight. I feel like a 29-28 is coming here, but I just think she's a little bit more classy than Jose. I think she is a little bit more classy, and I think I like, I like fighters like Jose who will, do the dog work, will push you against the cage, will realize that I'm not, and maybe this is not the case in this fight, but really, I'm not as good a fighter as you. I'm not as technical or tactical as you. I have to, technical, not tactical. I have to use my tactics. I have to be agricultural here, I respect that. But they'll never be the classier fighter if the classier fighter can implement their game plan. Do you know? If the classier fighter can get behind that jab, turn to the left or right, circle out, get away, it's impossible to beat them if they can continue to do it. And I feel like Kianzad can do it for a round. Can't you do it for 2 rounds? Well, I'm backing it, and we're backing it at plus 180. So there you go. Right. Bet number 3 is also plus 180. And do you know what? I had a fun time researching this fight. And this one is in the heavyweight division, as our last 2 bets are. And I'm going for Jhonata Diniz to beat Carl Williams, and he's plus 180 in that fight. Diniz, again, this is a very, very interesting pick on my part, in terms of, I looked at it and my first reaction was to pick Williams, right? I want to watch his Justin Tafa fight, which is his last fight. Tafa not a million miles away from Diniz in terms of, he is a striker. He comes out and he throws big hands, and you want to pull him down and take him down. And you know what? Carl Williams did exactly that. He pulled him down. He took him to the ground. He won the fight that way, right? So you're thinking to yourself, like, should the pick then be Williams? But I think I saw enough in the Diniz fight against Austin Lane, which was only in April, only his first fight in the UFC. He's only been fighting for 2 years. I think it was only his second round as well. I think I saw enough in that fight to look at plus 180 and goes, can he catch Carl Williams with a big shot and knock him out? And I'm going to go with the yes side of that, right? And I have a couple of reasons why, right? In the Tafa fight and in other fights as well. No, he's never fought someone, I suppose, like that apart from Tafa. But in the Tafa fight, he's willing to strike. Like he is a good striker as Williams. He is very fast. They talked about in the Tafa fight as well in the commentary. I think it was Dominic Cruz, if I'm not mistaken, was saying, look, it was Dominic Cruz. Look at the hand speed. It's the first thing you'll notice. And he was, right? And for the first maybe 2 or 3 minutes of that fight, he was striking away with Tafa, ended up getting a takedown. There was other parts of the fight where he was happy to strike with him as well. And if that happens early with Diniz, and if Diniz, right, if the fight goes on and there's a takedown and the second round starts and the third round starts and those standing exchanges get prolonged, it just gives Diniz more and more time to land those big shots. Like, he has insane power on him. He is, as I said, come from the kickboxing world. You can talk about others. Talk to others now about how real the kickboxing was and all. I don't know about that, but to me, he certainly looks like a dangerous hitter. And when you're a guy like Carl Williams, who's willing to back and bank on your speed, which he should, because he's faster than most heavyweights, he's lighter than most heavyweights. When you're willing to do that, you're putting yourself in a bit of peril there. And you look at Diniz and you think, okay, Carl Williams is 34 years of age with a 10-1 record. Diniz, 33 years of age, 7-0. But like, if you're if you're looking at who's the guy that can go on a massive run and do something special and be something different, you're probably thinking Diniz. Now, if it doesn't work out and Carl Williams keeps improving and keeps on winning, I could see Williams is a good fighter. There's no doubt about it. But I'm looking at the kind of the Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya type of thing. Now, is he the same class as them? I'm not so sure about that. But is like the new breed of kickboxers coming into MMA. They seem to find a way, especially against guys who will test themselves against, look at the likes of what Strickland and Cannonier and others have done and ended up the way they did against those guys. Is this necessarily going to be the same? I don't know. So here's two things. I think the price is a little bit off. Should Williams be the favorite? He probably should. But also, I don't, as a matter of principle, right? I don't necessarily just like backing the wrestler. Especially against a guy who I saw wrestled in his last fight. Now, okay, let's be honest, didn't look amazing, but survived, got back to his feet and had the ability to land the shots again. And, look fresh. So, why can't he do that again against Williams? Williams, Austin Lane in the last fight, he did get a bit tired and stuff, but Lane, bigger and, taller heavyweight, and was still able to catch him. And, in that fight as well, it was the speed that Diniz landed with, but the accuracy that you hardly even saw it. I feel like against Williams, who, is similar, but not as good, I think he could be lulled in a little bit to thinking, I can beat this guy for speed, and then Diniz lands that shot and he's gone. So, this is a risky one. This is a risky one. I won't lie. Would I be at all surprised if Williams took him down and submitted him or something like that? I wouldn't. I'm taking, as I said, going for the plus money one here, taking a little bit of a risk. And we're going for Jhonata Diniz at plus 180 to win. Right. Let's talk about the main event, the top two bets. First bet, okay, we've normal betting in with the Flier. So the first bet, I'm going with. I've changed my mind on this one, to be honest. And I'll tell you why in a second. But I went to watch back to. Okay, so the bet is Tybura and Spivak goes to a decision at plus 160. I was thinking about just giving Spivak straight up as the bet, which was a similar enough price. Let me just check here what that is. Sorry, Spivak's actually minus 162. Has this changed since yesterday? Has this? No, it's about the same. No, it's about the same. It's gone in a little bit actually, but sorry, I was thinking of giving Tybura straight up. Yes, so Tybura is minus 136, and this is minus 163. So a little bit of a better price, right? A little bit of a better price, and we'll talk about the Flier in a second. So went back and watched their first fight, and it was one of those fights you watch it where, to completely defy the point of what I made a minute ago, the wrestling really was the determining factor in that fight. You look at the way Tybura was able, and he wasn't easily able to get him down, but he got him down so many times in that fight that it's hard to ignore going into this one. And the two other major takeaways I had from it was I thought Spivak was going to be better on the feet than Tybura, and he wasn't. It was pretty much even. And Spivak's cardio issues, I think, were a big issue there. So let's just for a second, before we'll get back into that now in a second. But before we do, let's just see what's happened for both of them since, right? So it was in February 2020, the fight happened. It was the first time, I believe, that Spivak had gone past the second round. He went to the decision in that fight. The next few fights in a row, he ended up going to third round, second round. Third round, won all of those fights, won 2 decisions. One of them against Olenek, then lost to Aspinall, won 3 in a row relatively early, and then lost again, obviously, in his last time out. For Tybura, he I suppose, went on a similar sort of run, won a couple of decisions, won 4 in a row, then lost to Volkov, won 2 in a row, lost to Aspinall, and then beat Tuivasa. So I don't think there's a whole lot in the difference between the first fight in terms of what they have achieved. Tybura is 38, Spivak is 29, which I suppose is the big difference. But at heavyweight, it's not as much of a difference. Like when they fought before, what were they, 25 and 34, which was, you could say the advantage then was to Tybura. The advantage now is probably to Spivak in terms of age. But is there any noticeable difference in them? I don't necessarily think so. So I wanted to do that to see, was like, has anything massively changed? Like, let's say we saw Belal and Luque fighting there last year, whenever. Like, when they fought first versus when they fought second, there was massive differences, right? For these two, I don't necessarily think there was, right? So this bet is the fight goes to decision. Now, I have a couple of reasons for that. I think because of the way, and let me just make sure again. So Spivak, he has never gone to a fourth round or a fifth round, right? So this is going to be his first time. Like the last time was his first time going to a third round. Now, I'm sure he wasn't wanting to go to a third round, but it was the last time, and he struggled. I think he is going to majorly be trying to conserve energy here, right? And anytime we talk about a bet like this, it's always that. How are they going to adjust to the 5-round main event? Now, he's fought in main events before. He fought against Derek Lewis. That fight ended quickly, so we didn't really see much of it. In fact, that was his only one. Yeah, it was his only one. So he's only got to the first round in that fight. So I think it's going to be a major difference. He's going to have gone back and watched that fight. He's going to be like, I can't get tired in this fight like I got tired in the last one. I'm going to have to play it a little bit differently. I think Tybura is not going to be a million miles away from that either. He has never fought. He's once fought to a decision, to a 5-round decision in the UFC. He fought to a third round decision many times, obviously, but fought to Verdum, lost that fight. I don't necessarily think, right, that Tybura, maybe it could hurt Tybura actually compared, to the 3-round versus 5-round, but I don't think he's necessarily going to have a massive advantage, right? So I also think he's going to probably fight at maybe a lower register in this one than in the last one even, which, he ended up kind of coasting to in the end, and Spivak kind of tired at. So that's why I think it's going to decision. Now, I'll explain further to the fight here, but I'll give my fifth bet first in the Flier. So the Flier is Tybura wins by decision at plus 410. So the first bet was the fight just to go to decision, plus 160. I'm doubling down it to go to decision, and I'm going for Tybura to win the decision. So why do I think Tybura will win the decision? Well, it's hard to look at that first fight and see the way he won it and not think the exact same thing is going to happen, right? It's not as if Spivak has been gone out and like finishing everyone. Now, in fairness, Hardy and Sakai, he finished them. Okay, yeah, we can write that off. But he finished Derek Lewis, so it's unfair. But Cyril Gane, Tom Aspinall, even Alexei Olnik, Carlos Felipe, those are his major fights since, and he didn't finish any of them. Last two of them, won one of them. Now, that's a bit unfair on me. Finished Vandera, finished Hardy, finished Sakai, finished Lewis. Now, the Lewis one, major one, he did finish that. So, he has it in him. There's no doubt about it. But I just don't see it here. I really, really don't see it here. I think what he's going to do, I think what both of them are going to do is fight a slow register. I think Spivak is going to try to win on the feet. I think Tybura is going to fight him on the feet when needs be. I think both of them are going to, land 17 punches per round to 19 punches per round. Maybe one round they'll land 8 or 9 punches to 11 or 12 punches. No one's going to get really rocked. No one's going to get massively hurt. There's probably going to be 4 to 6 takedowns in the fight, and it's probably going to go a long way. Probably, 3 to 5 of those takedowns will be for Tybura and end up winning the decision. You know, I hope I'm wrong, right? Because I'll probably be up until 7 a.m. watching this, and I'm probably said, don't mind those bets. I need to go to sleep. But again, unless there's something massive I'm missing since the first fight, which I don't think there is, I think Tybura is the pick again. I think he's going to, like, in the first fight, he took him down a couple of times, kind of in open water. He tripped him a couple of times. He tried to get him down against the cage a couple of times. It was hard, but again, the body locks, the bits of trips he got in there. He didn't need too many takedowns, as I say. I think, look, Spivak will be better prepared. There's no doubt about it. And I think the first couple of rounds will probably be very close. One could go either way. But again, let me throw that third round takedown at you. I think this could be one where you could be close, any score after 2 rounds, and Tybura ends up winning 3, 4, and 5. Maybe, wins the 48-47, maybe wins the 49-46 type of thing. So, yeah, that's it. That's my reasoning, and that's the pick for that one. So, is there anything else in the card that I'm massively interested in? What's even happening? What's even happening? So we've Chris Gutierrez, Kui Lang, Jose Marscal against Damon Jackson. Marscal against Damon Jackson, minus 230 for Marscal. Damon Jackson plus 190. Damon Jackson's one of these guys that's hit and miss. Is plus 190 enough of a price for you to go for it? I'm not too sure. If I was betting at that price, I probably would bet him, but I don't think he'll win. Aarons and Zalal. Aarons is a big underdog here, up as far as plus 350, minus 450 for Zalal. So he'll probably win that. Stephanie Luciano is the favorite, minus 175, plus 145. Talia Alan Carr. And is there a strong pick for anything else? Chris Gutierrez in short notice is up as far as, over minus 400 in some places. Danny Barlow, my big favorite, over Nikolai there. So there isn't a whole lot. One thing I would say, Valeska Machado is fighting over in Invicta. She's a big favorite there, but maybe, I think she will win her fight. If you're throwing in a parlay or anything like that, maybe she'd be one to throw it in there. Not massively, as I said earlier on, stands out and brave. Or UFC. I believe there's a Duplessis fighting over in EFC, so maybe that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. One thing I would say, though, and I'll leave it on this, next week, Den White Contender Series starts off, and Lonnie Kavanagh's fighting. He is a minus 258 favorite. Haven't massively looked at his opponent yet, but that's definitely one I would keep an eye on. He is an unbelievable talent. Very young. His last fight against Sean. What's Sean's second name? Sean. Can't remember. It won't come to me. Oh God, terrible. Over in case Sean. What is it? I can't remember. But I thought it was a bit too soon. I thought he might lose that fight, or it might be close. He went out and he destroyed him. Again, is it a case of too early? The big lights and all of that, we will see. But this guy, if you get him 2 or 3 more fights or another year in Cage Warriors, I'll be telling you straight away, this guy is championship level material. I really like him as a fighter. So I won't talk you down. And at minus 258, is it a good enough bet to go for? Probably is, I'd say. Probably is. So I'd have a look at that one. All right. We will leave it there. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Let's have a quick recap of the bets before we go. Chelsea Chandler plus 125, plus 180 for both Kianzad and Diniz. And then the 4 pick is Spivak Tybura to go to decision, plus 163. And a plus 410, the flyer of the week is Tybura to win by decision. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com. Please bet responsibly. And we'll see you all next time.